This is the craziest shit that's ever happened to me in my entire life. You guys said you wanted a ghost story, so we're gonna tell it. So let's get started. Tonight I'm gonna tell you guys about the time I was haunted by a Shenghai Tunnel Ghost. It's kind of a long story, so let's get into it. I was actually raised in Portland. I don't know if you guys know that, but there's a legend of Shenghai tunnels in Portland, Oregon. Basically, it's a group of underground passages that was used back in the day for trading. A lot of goods were stored in the basements of bars, hotels, buildings, businesses. And Portland is a port city, so trades, goods, and stuff like that comes through on ships. Back in the day, in the 19th century, when Portland was up and running, like these tunnels were actually built for trades and goods. And so it was just easier than trying to transport everything through the streets and having traffic and all that sort of things. So a lot of big businesses in Old Town and Chinatown had tunnels built from the Willamette River underground through the basement of their establishments. Naturally, things got precarious, so a lot of crime happened down there too. What happened is a lot of these big ships, when the sailors came into Portland, they didn't have a lot of time to rest, so a lot of them actually just ditched and didn't want to go back to sea because working like that was really grueling. So ship captains would pay men to basically abduct or kidnap other men to replace people that took off on them, so their crew wouldn't be short. So it was said that they paid like $50 a head at least. Stories about this started breaking out when certain sailors that got abducted escaped. The main way that they did this was often through bars, and they would just target people that were drinking alone and that looked alone. They had trap doors in a lot of the bars that led down to the basements where they would keep people. This turned into like prostitution rings. They would hold prostitutes down there for like international sale. Gangs used them. They would hold gang members down there. It was a way to like evade police. A lot of like activity, like criminal activity, started going on in the underground tunnels of Portland. All right, so that's a little back history about what Shenghai tunnels are in general. If you have never heard of Portland and you don't know what they are, as you can imagine, a lot of people got hurt, a lot of people got killed and murdered in these underground areas. Like stories started breaking out in the newspaper about this, and it became like actually popular as a tourist thing in the 70s. It was also very hot and popular during Prohibition because they could sneak in alcohol to bars. Bartenders could hide their workers, hide their goods, and basically get away with selling alcohol. Shenghai tunnels to this day are said to be one of the most haunted places in the world. So how did I become haunted by Shenghai Tunnel Ghost? So this is my story. In college, I was going to Portland State University, downtown Portland. During the time, one of my best friend's father owned a business. It's right off First Street, which back in the day used to be, there didn't used to be a NATO Parkway between First and the waterfront, so it was just like that used to be the closest street to the river. But either way, the building that he owned had several stories to it, but it was technically like a business building for commerce and retail, and it was just gorgeous. I have no idea what year this building was built. It has like huge brick walls, so the space was like we had big, huge open windows out to the street. And then you walk through to the left, there's a little restroom. You keep going, it's a big open room, and there was a big open loft. He tried to make it into several different businesses with, I don't know why he was having, I think he was having issues with zoning with the fire department or something like that. I don't know. My friend and I were going to Portland State at the time. We were in college. So we talked him into letting us live there. So this was a commercial space. It wasn't zoned for residential. So we didn't have a shower. We didn't have a kitchen. We didn't have any of the normal amenities like that. Before you get grossed out. He was turning it into a bar. So like the bar area that we had down below, we made into our makeshift kitchen. We had a mini fridge. We had a stovetop. We had a lot of different stuff like that. And then I ended up getting a gym membership across the street, and that's where I showered and got ready. So, well, I would shower and come home and get ready. So anyway, that's how I figured that part out. Plus I was definitely a hippie at the time, so I didn't really care about showering every day. It was all good to me. I just wanted to go to college and have a cheap place to stay. I wanted to live downtown. Her father owned this building for quite a while, so I had been there before. I had visited with her before. We had to stop by his office. I knew the space. I knew how big it was. I knew how pretty it was. I knew it was like kind of creepy, but when she talked to me about moving in, I was like, it's really cheap. It's really pretty. It's a huge space. Like I could never afford that big of a space downtown ever. So we got a deal because it wasn't technically legal. And eventually the fire department did kick us out, I'll tell you that. So shortly before we moved in, I stopped by and went and talked to her dad, and he said that she was down there. So I let myself in. I couldn't find my friend, so I knew that she was like cleaning out the basement. And if you walk all the way through the space to the back, like left corner behind the bar area, there's a door that goes down to the basement. So the basement is disgusting. It's like low ceilings. It looks like something out of like the Chainsaw Massacre. It had dirt floors. It had like, you know, like one dirty bulb hanging from the ceiling, like the light, that was it. It was super creepy. She was down there. There was some kind of like leak or flood or something. So a lot of his like storage boxes and paperwork for his business that he stored down there had gotten damaged. So she was essentially packing up nasty boxes of like molded paperwork and shit. And so, yeah, I was like, why are you down here by yourself doing this? And I was like, I could feel a presence in that space, like from the get-go. I felt entities and stuff my entire life, but I hadn't developed my abilities yet at that time. And I was still like afraid of ghosts. So I was pretty creeped out by it. And I was like, how are you down here by yourself? Like, you're crazy. And she's like, oh, I'm just like trying not to think about it. And she told me too, she was like, yeah, I feel like there is something down here, but you know, it's probably really old and I don't want to disrespect it. So I just like flat out, you know, said out loud, like, hey, I don't want to disrespect your space. I'm going to be working down here. Like, please don't bother me. So she told me that. She's like, yeah, I straight up talked to it. Cause I was just like, wanted to set the standard. And I was like, you're down here talking to it? I was like, whatever. That was the first time I like went into the basement. And like the street level was already a little creepy. Like you got a little creep vibes from it, mainly just because it was like an empty space for so long. It was like super old building, super old features. In the corner of the basement, in the wall that would be facing east towards the river, there's a huge hole. I have no proof that it's actually a Shenghai tunnel because I wasn't stupid enough to go in the hole, but it's a man-sized hole. It's giant, and it was stuffed with furniture to block it. So for some reason, someone had shoved a bunch of furniture in there to block it. I don't know why. I wasn't brave enough to pull the shit out of there and like explore. I didn't know if it was like secure or if it would collapse in on us. I didn't know what the hell we'd find back there. I knew about Shanghai tunnels, and I was like, I'm pretty sure that's a Shanghai tunnel, but we didn't go in there because I was like, hell no. There was already like bad enough vibes down there. I was like, I was like spiritually sensitive enough to know like not to mess with it. So yeah, I didn't go there. But anyway, long story short, we decided to move in. It was lovely. It was a hippie's paradise. It was a huge commercial space, like I said, so there wasn't actually bedrooms. And so my friend decided to make half of the loft her bedroom, and basically we just made the corners of the building our bedrooms. So we had 2 walls, and then she had a tapestry dividing the middle part of the loft. So it was her bedroom, and then it was like our little living room upstairs, and we had like a little couch. And then I was on the lower part, like just the walk-in level. She was up above in the loft. So the lower part, it was my bedroom underneath hers. I had 2 walls. So I had the back wall of the whole place that was basically the wall that shared with the door that went down to the basement. So like behind my headboard against that wall was like the stairs down to the basement, and then a brick wall. And then my other 2 walls were tapestries, so you could like kind of see through them, but it was just her and I, we didn't care. And then the other side of my half of the like lower part of the loft was the bar area, or like our makeshift kitchen. So that's the layout in case you're curious. It kind of plays into the story. And then we had this like huge space up front. We ended up putting like curtains up dividing between us and the main road, because we had those huge windows and basically you could just see into our place. So, and we only had one little tiny bathroom. We didn't know what to do to fill up the lower space, and we didn't really want to buy like another couch and a whole second living room setup. We ended up getting a free couch, I think, later, and made like a little one. So my friend had a trampoline, and we had the idea to just fill the space with a trampoline, because why the hell not? We were in college, and we had literally had the space. Like, we had nothing else to put there. We wanted to exercise, and our ceilings were super, super high, and they were 2 stories high because of the loft. So it was actually perfect. That part was awesome. I don't remember the months because this has been a while. We were there for at least like 2-3 months. It was actually really fun. It was one of the funnest isn't the word. It was one of the funnest places I've ever lived, but it turned scary. I always felt a presence in there when I had been there before. The few times I had been there, pretty strong, I felt a presence. But I was telling myself, you know, it's okay. Like, we're gonna live here together. We're gonna do this together. She's been hanging out down here. She's been working here. Nothing's happened to her. So I was like, maybe it'll be fine. Like, maybe it's just a little creepy because it's old. So we move in, we set up and all that. Where do I even start? Okay, well, I guess I should just say she was in a serious relationship at the time, where she started dating this guy, and he had an apartment with his friends on campus, or really close to campus. So she was at his house all the time. So our loft, like our apartment, kind of turned into like my party spot, because she was never home. Like, she would just go to class in his house, class in his house. Like, I get it, it was just right there, and I had to walk a good 10-20 blocks to school, so I didn't mind. That was my exercise though. So anyway, she crashed at his house a lot, which I didn't blame her for. But it left me home alone a lot. And the other thing is, when she was gone, my room was literally like right here, and then on the other side of my tapestry was the door down to the basement. So like, the creepiest part of the house was basically where my room was, like right there. And there wasn't even a wall between me and the door. There was a tapestry, which they're kind of sheer. So like I said, she was gone a lot, and I was home alone. So I had people over all the time. For one, it was just a great space. It was downtown. I was in college. I just wanted to have a good time, and I didn't want to be alone. So I'd invite people over all the time. We would hang out. We'd make food, we would play music, we'd jump on the trampoline, whatever. We'd go to bars and then come home, and like my place was like the after spot kind of thing. Like, when I'd have people over, I started telling them that I think it's haunted, and I was like, dude, you guys have to see my basement. It's so creepy. Like, you just have to see my basement. I'm like, I'm pretty sure there's a Shanghai tunnel in my basement. And so they're all like, no way, no way. So I started taking people down there to the basement, like when we were drinking and partying and stuff, which is probably not the smartest idea. This is, I think, what started it, but I didn't want to go down there alone. But when people were there, I'd be like, let me show you. I hadn't met an aggressive ghost, demon, whatever you want to call it. I was a little creeped out by it, but I didn't think it was gonna mess with me, honestly. I think we like shotgunned beers down there because it was a dirt floor. So I was like, I don't want you guys to shotgun beers in my house and get the floor sticky, but you can do it in the basement. So this might have pissed off the ghost. I don't know. I had to sleep alone there by myself with her 2 cats. The one cat was an orange cat, and they're super vocal, and it would always come and like meow at me and like come in my room and want to snuggle and want attention when she wasn't home. Okay, so before this happened, there was times when I would be at home alone, doing homework, doing whatever, just chilling. So my floor was the ceiling of the basement, right? And there was a couple like drill holes through my floor that went straight down into the basement. So you could technically see down, and it could see up, but not entirely. I think I covered one of them with a rug, and the other one was like open, which kind of creeped me out, but I told myself it was okay. And sometimes when I was home alone, just hanging out, I would hear what sounded like someone banging a broom on the ceiling, but there's no one below me. There's no tenant below me. It's the basement. So I was definitely home alone, and I would hear like a banging sound on the floor, and I would just be like, tell myself it wasn't happening, tell myself I was hearing things, and I would just brush it off. Then one night, I think it was like a week or so before this happened, I was trying to fall asleep, and where my headboard was the same wall where the like stairs went down to the basement. So like behind that wall was the stairs to the basement. One night when I was trying to fall asleep, I heard knocking on the wall behind my head, which nothing's there besides the stairs to the basement. So I'm getting creeped out telling you this right now. So whatever it was in the basement was taunting me and like knocking on the ceiling and knocking on the wall behind my head, trying to let me know like, hey, I'm here, bitch. I see you, or you're in my space, or whatever it's trying to say. I think it was just trying to mess with me. So I definitely knew something was in that place, and I didn't want to encounter it because I'm thinking, if this is a freaking ghost, it's probably such an old ghost. It's probably been here for freaking ever, probably since the city was like built, and or at least since the tunnels were built. And I don't know, in my experience, like the older the ghosts, like the more powerful they are, and I know the place sat vacant for so long that like when places sit vacant, it's like the ghost gets more territorial and feels like it's their space and doesn't really want to share sometimes. So I kind of got that vibes, like it didn't really want me to be there. It had spent so long on its own down there. It didn't really want anyone in its space is kind of the vibes I got from it. I was having a rough go of it at the time, and I was partying a lot. It was emotional reasons. I was going through some shit. So anyway, I was partying, but I was also like kind of still going to church. The reason I say that is because people accused me later of being high during this, and this is why I experienced this. And I was like, I was not high. I was like completely sober because I had just gotten home from church, and I wouldn't have gone to church high or drunk. So I had just gone to church with one of my other good friends and her husband, and they had dropped me off super late. So I went to church with them. I think they even offered for me to stay the night. I was like, no, please take me home. So they did. They drove me downtown. Okay, they live like 20-30 minutes away. They drove me home and dropped me off super late. She wasn't home, of course, my roommate. I was like, whatever. And I was like sober. So I was like back in my room. And the first thing I noticed that was weird was the cat would always come in and bug me. But this night, PC, the orange cat, he came up to like my doorway. I didn't really have a door. It was a tapestry, but he came up to like the entrance of my room and he just sat right there and meowed. He was like meowing at me, but he wouldn't come in my room. And honestly, this creeped me out a little bit because I was like, why won't he come in the room? Like, he's never not come in the room before. Usually he's like on my bed, on my stuff, like bugging me. Not in a bad way, but whatever. I tried to brush it off. I turned off all the lights in the house. This is what I would do. So there was like light coming through from the entrance, which is like a good 50 feet from my building. It was a huge room. So it's like in the distance, there's like light peeking in the windows, but mainly it was just my little lamp on in my bedroom. So the only lights that were on were in my bedroom and the rest of the place was dark. So I was sitting in bed and I was like listening to music. I think I had like one ear pod in, but not the other one. I was just like going through, I think I was like on Facebook. I don't remember. I was like on my computer messing around and listening to music and like just basically killing time because I wasn't ready to fall asleep yet or whatever. So as I'm hanging out, I just feel something looking at me. Like I just felt that feeling you get when like eyes are on you and you can feel it. And I was like, don't look, don't look. I just didn't even want to look, but I did. So I'm sitting on my bed and I look over to my right and I can see like through the tapestry because it's kind of sheer, just like an outline. So on the other side of my tapestry is the bar. It was like a curved bar top, which was like our kitchen. And right behind it is the door to the basement. So right in front of the freaking door to the basement is this huge shadow. And I just stared at it and it stared at me and we were just staring at each other and all I could really see was the outline because it was a shadow and there's a tapestry and that's it and it's in the dark. So I knew it wasn't human because there's like no, unless they really came through the Shenghai Tunnel, there's no way to get in the house. The only way I can describe it is it looked like a werewolf. It had this big, it was tall as frick. It was probably like 8 feet taller, 8 feet or taller. It had this huge like mange, like fur. I just saw like fur and it was just like the outline and it looked like a beast. Like it's staring at me, I'm staring at it and I was just kind of frozen. Like, is this really happening? Like in my head, I was like, fuck, is this really happening? And as I'm staring at it, ooh, it like crouched down. Oh my God, it gave me chills like all over my body. So as I'm looking at it, there's like the bar top. It crouches down behind the bar. So the shadow hid from me, like snuck down, like don't see me, and like hid from me. And I was just like, honestly, I was in shock. I was just like, oh my God, this isn't happening. Like, okay, this isn't happening. Like, I'm just gonna go to bed. Like, I didn't know what to do. It was honestly like probably like midnight at the time or later. It was like late. I was just like messing around and hadn't gone to bed and it was late. They dropped me off late and then I was messing around. So it was late because I did fall asleep. There's more to the story. Yeah, I think it was at least midnight. So it crouches down. I tell myself it's not happening. It's all in my head. Like, you're seeing shit. Like, it's not, whatever. Just go to bed. Just go to bed. So I was like, now I gotta try to fall asleep when this thing is like right there. I'm not gonna like get up out of bed in the dark and go confront it. And I'm not gonna walk 50 feet to the front of the building where the other light switches are to turn on those lights and confront it or have it like attack me from the back. Like, I didn't know what to do. So I was like, just go to bed. Just go to bed. Maybe it won't mess with you. Just go to bed. Stupid. Don't do that. So I put in my headphones. I put in both of my headphones because I was like, if something attacks me, I don't want to hear it. Like, I don't want to hear its creepy voice. This is where it gets even creepier. So I fell asleep with ear pods in and I was listening to music and I started to have the craziest nightmare. I was having a nightmare that I was in the basement. This was the creepy part. In my nightmare, I was like stuck in the basement, or like lost in the basement. It was like kind of disorienting, but I was like down there and I was like on the floor and I couldn't see stuff, and it was like really dark. And I was kind of crawling around trying to like get out, but it was like I wasn't alive, or something was wrong with me, because I couldn't really get out. I couldn't really crawl up the stairs and get out. For some reason, I was like injured, or I was on the floor and I was disoriented. Like, I felt like I was drugged or something. And in my dream, my roommate came downstairs to look for me, and she was like calling my name. She was like, Beth, Beth. And I was literally like, in my dream, I was like grabbing for her ankles, and I was like saying her name, and I was like, hey, hey, I'm here. And I was grabbing her ankles, and I was like, help, help, help me. And she couldn't see me and she couldn't hear me. It was like I didn't exist. This was the creepy part. So I don't know if I was like dead in my dream, or I don't know. It was freaking creepy. So I used to have nightmares all the time, and I learned how to snap myself out of it and like wake up, basically. I like trained myself to wake up because I would have them so frequently, I'd want to get out of them. So it started to get really creepy. And so she started to like go back up the stairs and leave me down there. And I was like, no, come back, come back. But she couldn't freaking hear me. So it creeped me the hell out. Honestly, it creeped me out so bad. The dream. And I was kind of like in my head, like, oh, hell no, I'm not having this dream right now. So I woke myself up. I did like my little trick, and I woke myself up. But instantly when I woke myself up, okay, I was like on my side, I remember, and I was facing the wall. Like, the tapestry would have been behind me and the door would have been behind me. So like whatever it was would have been behind me. I was like turned the other way, like facing the wall. And I could hear like my music playing a little bit. But I woke up like disoriented. I felt super disoriented. And I was like, what the hell? Like, was that a dream? Like, what just happened? Instantly, I like heard like this like really heavy like white noise sound, like just like background kind of white noise. And I didn't know it at the time, but I had sleep paralysis. The only thing I was thinking was, get your phone, get your cell phone. And my cell phone was behind me on my nightstand on the other side of the bed. So I was like, okay, just roll over and get your phone. I tried to roll over and I couldn't move. Like, it felt kind of like sleep paralysis, which I had before, but it was more like something was on top of me, because it was like I couldn't really move. And then when I really struggled to try to move, it let me roll. It let me roll onto my back. So I was on my side and it let me roll onto my back. As I rolled onto my back, I just see above me like the outline, and it looked like a clear shadow of something. Like, I just saw big broad shoulders, and it was like the figure of something. I couldn't really make it out. It was like a being, and it was clear, and there was like white, like really loud white noise around me. And I just like stared up at it in disbelief. And as I like was on my back is when I saw it above me, and I couldn't hear anything besides the white noise, but I felt arm or hands go around my neck. As I'm looking at it, it starts choking me. Like, these huge hands started choking me, and I was like, oh my God, like, it's trying to kill me. Like, what the hell? I'd never had like that vivid of or aggressive encounter with the ghost before. I certainly had never had anything put hands on me. This thing was on top of me, and now it was choking me. In my head, I was just like in shock, and I was like, no, 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 this is not happening. This is like my worst nightmare. So I'm sitting there in disbelief, and I did grow up in church, so the only thing I knew really about demons was to say, you know, Jesus' name to get them to leave you. So I couldn't speak. it is like, I don't know what it did to my mouth, but I couldn't talk. So it was like kind of sleep paralysis, and I could barely move, and it was choking me. And all I could hear was like this echoing white noise. So I started praying in my head. I started praying like, leave me alone, leave me alone. Jesus' name, leave me alone. I was like, let go of me. And I felt it let go. I felt it like back up off me, but it didn't leave. Like I felt it back up, and it almost like looked like energetically, I felt it like back up to the edge of my room. But I didn't ever feel it leave. Like I just felt it kind of like disappear into the room. Like probably its plan was gonna be to come back and attack me again. After the dream of being like disoriented, and I don't know what, if I was freaking dead in the dream or whatever it was, and then waking up with sleep paralysis, seeing it, being taunted by it like days prior, and then being choked, I was like, I'm getting out of here. So honestly, I don't know, I started hyperventilating a little bit. I like reached over, grabbed my phone, and I just started texting people to see like who would be awake. It was literally like 1 o'clock in the morning or later. Yeah, it was like 1 or 1:30 in the morning, if I remember right. And I was like, hey, are you awake? Are you awake? I was texting everybody. I drove at the time, but I left my car like out in the suburbs at my parents' house. I didn't leave it downtown, so I didn't have anywhere to go, and I couldn't walk anywhere that late at night. It wouldn't really be that safe. So I needed someone to come pick me up because I did not want to sleep there. After the dream, I did not feel safe sleeping there. I was like, this thing wants to kill me. I literally grabbed my purse, grabbed my phone, and put on my flip-flops and left. I didn't even get dressed. I didn't even grab a coat. I didn't even like look in the mirror. I literally just grabbed my shit and left. I was like, I'm just gonna wait for my friends at a bar. Like, I don't care if I have to just go to a bar until I get kicked out. I'm not staying here. So luckily, there's a bar right next door. I walk into this bar at like 1 or 1:30 in the morning in my pajamas. I don't even remember what I was wearing, but it was like pajamas, in my purse, and I probably looked like hell. It's like sat down at the bar, and there was only like one other person in the bar, I think. And the bartender just like looked at me, and he's like, are you okay? And I was like, no. And he's like, you look like you just seen a ghost. And I was like, yeah, because I did. And I was like, dude. And I was just like sitting there kind of in shock, and he's like looking at me like, you need a drink? I'm so shocked. I don't even think I ordered a drink. I think I asked for water. I don't know. But I was just like, I just need somewhere to chill until someone can pick me up. And he's like, oh. He's like, you're the girl that lives next door, the two girls, huh? And I was like, yes, I live next door. He's like, you look like you just seen a ghost. And I was like, yes, I think I did. And I was like, dude, it just attacked me. Like, I think a ghost just attacked me. And he's like, really? He's like, yeah, this building's totally haunted. So in this bar, they have a whole mirror wall behind the alcohol. It looks pretty cool. And he's like, yeah, it's like a couple buildings conjoined together. Like there's a bar, there's offices, and then something else. I think a hotel. He's like, oh yeah, back in the day, this whole place used to be a brothel, and so I'm pretty sure there's Shenghai tunnels in the basement. Like, people see this woman ghost in the mirror all the time. He's like, yeah, we have this like trap door behind the bar that goes to a tunnel. And I was like, huh, yeah. I was like, it makes sense. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I don't know what the hell just happened, but something attacked me and it felt aggressive. And I was like, whatever it was pissed off, didn't want me to be there. And I was like, this is making more sense. Like, maybe something happened to this ghost and that's why it's angry or disgruntled. Or maybe it was like, has a vendetta against women, because if it was a brothel, I think they used the women to kind of lure men in to Shanghai them. So either way, it wasn't good. Whatever the energy was, wasn't good. Whatever happened to that thing, that entity, that person, it wasn't good. But this is not where the story ends, unfortunately. So that's kind of the climax of the story. That's what happened. I ended up getting a hold of my friend that I had gone to church with that had dropped me off earlier. I was like crying. I was like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. Like, ghosts just tried to kill me. I can't stay here. So she's like, okay, we'll come get you. Like, she's like, just wait there, we'll come get you. So these poor people like drove at like 1 something in the morning, came all the way back down there, picked me up and took me to their house to let me sleep. And I was like, thank God I'm not sleeping there. I literally never slept there again. I was like, I'm never sleeping there again. I'm moving out. I don't care where I think I went back to my parents' house for a little bit. I was like, Mom and Dad, I'm moving back in. I don't care what you say. I'm moving out. Like, it's choking me. That's a deal breaker. No. This is where the story gets a little crazier. So, I think I told my roommate the next day. I like called her and told her what happened. I think her and I got in a fight about me moving out. And I was like, I don't care what you say. I'm not staying there anymore. Like, I don't feel safe. And so she was like annoyed that I was moving out. I don't know. I think she wanted me to stay another month or so. I can't remember. We got in a fight about it. But when we actually talked later, after our fight blew over, she's like, oh yeah, so I stayed there after you left and it was fine. One time I came down the stairs of the loft and like something came up to my face and like confronted me. And she said I talked to it and it just left me alone. And I'm like, okay, whatever. It like came up to her face and said something. She was braver than I was because I was like, But anyway, I don't think she stayed there that much. And like a month later, I literally got help and moved my shit out in the next couple of days. I definitely did. And then I was like, I can't do it. Like a month later, somehow the fire department did a sweep or figured out that we were in there and like wrote us an eviction notice. They're like, this is not residential. You can't live here. There's not fire exits. Like, you can't be in here. So, you know, touche. So I wouldn't have been able to stay that long anyway, but that's not where the story ends, unfortunately. This ghost or demon or whatever you want to call it decided to haunt me. So this became like the beginning of a never-ending nightmare that went on for the rest of the summer. Yeah, because I think this happened in like June or July. I think I moved out like the end of June, and this freaking ghost plagued me until like freaking September, I think. Like, it was months of haunting. This is crazy. Like I said, I think I'm psychic and I've had encounters with ghosts, but I wasn't very comfortable working with them. I hadn't developed my gifts yet because I grew up in the church and I thought they were like evil. I thought all spirits were evil. I just was like creeped out by all of it, and I didn't accept who I was or what I was capable of, and I just didn't want anything to do with it, honestly. And this was like my freaking boot camp training for spirituality, for demonology, for dealing with spiritual warfare, all that stuff. Like, I had dealt with it to some extent, but this threw me into months of a like literal haunting that I couldn't escape. It followed me from downtown out to my parents' house, where I definitely, I was there at least the rest of the summer. It followed me, which was the creepiest part. I didn't really hear or experience anything during the day, but it would attack me every night when I went to bed. Every night. I couldn't sleep for literally months. I started dating someone in July of that summer. So whenever I was with him, I felt fine. But whenever I wasn't at his place and I was at my house alone, it would attack me. Didn't want to sleep alone. I was so freaked out. So what it would do is I would just have like crazy nightmares. It would always try to like wake me up out of my sleep. So like night after night after night, I would have crazy nightmares, like creepy demonic nightmares with this like beast thing in them. I kept seeing this like werewolf thing in my dreams. Same kind of thing. And then sometimes when I would wake up, like in my face, when I'd wake up would be like a demonic face. Like I would wake up to like a demon in my face. That was fun. I started going to church more, for real. I didn't know how to combat it, honestly. They don't really talk about spiritual warfare that much in church, not in depth. So I literally felt like I was flying blind, trying to figure out how to battle this. Like, no one really knew, no one really cared. It was like, you're a grown up, you're afraid of ghosts. I'm like, but it's haunting me nightly. Like, I can't even sleep. So I would literally, every night, I would stay awake way too late until I was like too tired. And I like, it was like was it Freddy Krueger? Where they like don't want to fall asleep and attacks them in their dreams. It was like that. Like, I couldn't sleep. So I would like read scriptures. I started memorizing scriptures about like protection and stuff like that. I would read the Bible and read scriptures before I went to bed to like calm myself down, but it would still happen. It would try to like pull me out of my body. This is the creepy part. So I felt like it was trying to like possess me or just mess with me. And in my dreams, I could feel it like lifting me out of my body. And it would like try to like swing me around the room. So I could like see my body down below, but I like had no control. It would like pull me out of myself. And that's what freaked me out. It would do that all the time. This literally went on every night for months. Any night I was alone. Nothing against Christians or church or anything. I just ended up having a bad experience with all of it and realized I'm not religious. But at the time, I thought I was. So I ended things with him because I needed to be like serious about God. And honestly, I was freaked out about this shit, this haunting. And I thought that like if I was living in sin, it would make it worse. I don't know. I grew up super conservative. So I thought I was like doing the right thing. And, but it still kept happening is the thing. Like no matter how much I like pursued God or read my Bible, it would still happen. It was like, the only way I can explain it is like God allowed it to happen as like a training. I didn't know for what yet. I didn't know how I would be using these gifts or working with spirits in the future, but for better or worse, I think God just knew if I was going to be in this field, I was going to encounter activity, spiritual warfare, and demons and all sorts of things, and I would have to know how to handle myself. I couldn't just like cower in a corner. I had to know how to defend myself. So for better or worse, I was just in it. And for most of my life, I tried to avoid my gifts and avoid all of this because I didn't want to deal with it, honestly. But at this point, I had no choice. I was just in it and I had no choice. So what ended up working for me, by the way, was just ignoring it. So night after night after night, it would do things to me. It would mess with me. It would wake me up, yada, yada, yada. And it was basically as I started just being like, whatever. Or like I would wake up and a demon would be in my face and I'd be like, I would roll back over and go to sleep. Like it just stopped phasing me because I realized they really had no power over me. It really had no power over me. It was just trying to like feed on my fear, and it was just trying to torment me or make me afraid. And that was it. And so when I started resisting it and basically ignoring it, it went away. It would still happen every once in a while. It was like it would test me, but it went away. Thank God, because I was literally months of my life that I was an insomniac and freaked out and being haunted. Like literally, I was being haunted. Like the ghost followed me. That's what blew my mind. I was like, this thing followed me from downtown everywhere I went. Like if I was sleeping alone anywhere, it would happen. So anyway, yeah. That's my story of how I encountered a Shenghai Tunnel Ghost and then was haunted by a Shenghai Tunnel Ghost. And then I guess defeated the Shenghai Tunnel Ghost, or at least learned some of my own like spiritual powers and got a spiritual backbone. But holy crap, was it terrifying. And I wouldn't recommend messing with old spirits that you don't know. Or just getting in yourself like, I don't know. I guess if you're going to be interested in ghosts and stuff like that, that's fine. But maybe if you're like researching that kind of thing or being curious about them or being around them at all, kind of like I was like poking at it, in the beginning by being in its space and being curious about it. Learn some protection at the same time. I don't know. That's my advice. Anyway, that's my story. I lived through it. I didn't get possessed. It didn't kill me. It definitely like tormented me for a long time and freaked me the frick out. But I am weirdly thankful for the experience because it did make me like spiritually stronger. I'm not afraid of the dark. I'm not afraid of ghosts. I encounter them all the time. I know how to handle demons. I still don't like them. I still don't like bad spirits or evil spirits or dark spirits, but I'm not afraid of them. So there's that. So I guess it was good in the end, but it was torture. It was like spiritual boot camp, dude. Anyways, I have no idea why it looked like a werewolf. I don't know. I should look that up. That's my story. Let me know what you think. Has anything crazy like this ever happened to you? What's your craziest ghost story? Do you think it was a ghost? Do you think it was a demon? Why do you think it haunted me for so long? Have you heard of Shenghai tunnels? Let me know if you guys want more ghost stories. I do have more. This is probably the freakiest one because it was just so aggressive and then it like went on forever and ever. Check out my website if you guys want reading, Reiki, jewelry, incense, anything like that. Appreciate all the likes, all the comments you guys showed my channel. I need to announce my 1.5K giveaway winner. I will do that. Anyway, yeah, I turned out okay, guys. It's okay. It was just freaky. So good night. Thanks for listening to my story.